How do YouTube? How are you? Hope you're all well. Although with the content of this video in mind, maybe it should be, how the devil are you? Trick-or-treating. Hear it all the time. Like a lot of you out there, I do make a bit of an effort for Halloween. Decorate the house, have bags of sweets in for October the 31st. But trick-or-treating, I hear it all the time. Not everybody likes it, it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's completely fair. I honestly get it. Honestly, I really, really do. But I enjoy it. I enjoy not only for myself, but I enjoy seeing the kids' faces. I'll be honest with you. If we can bring a little bit of brightness, a little bit of happiness into the world, especially the past 4 or 5 years have given us or thrown at us all, then why not? But the most common complaint I hear is, oh, it's American. It's come from America. It's rubbish, it's cheap, it's commercialism. The truth might actually surprise you. It isn't going to be a long video, this, but I'm going to give you what I think, and again, it's only what I think, of where trick-or-treat came from. And the answer might just surprise you. Is it popular in America? Has it been popular in America? Yeah, it has. For a long time, more than here in the UK. Maybe for the past 50, 60 years in America, it's been such a huge, huge thing. Trick-or-treat, trick-or-treat, trick-or-treat. Didn't really. When I was a kid, I was born in 1968. So when I was a kid growing up, there was certainly Halloween, but I don't remember trick-or-treating. I just don't remember. I do remember Coca-Cola. I do remember Penny for the Guy, but that was more about bonfire night and fireworks night. So a week before that, on Halloween, there wasn't really much going on. I do remember as a kid, a very small kid, watching a news report, probably BBC. My mum and dad love watching the news. And it was about an American airport base. I can only guess that it was somewhere in Lancashire because we lived in Manchester at the time. And it was the local news. And they did a 3 or 4 minute news piece about trick-or-treating. I don't remember it as trick-or-treating then, but they did this thing whereby people who were from the States living in the UK, obviously they came all over with the families, kids, wives, and they all lived on this base. And they invited some of the local kids in this town, wherever it was, I honestly couldn't tell you where it was, along to see the trick-or-treating. And they took the TV cameras in. And it showed these kids going around dressed up as ghosts, basically. It was a sheet. Let's not make no bones about it. It was a sheet with 2 holes cut out for eyes. It wasn't up to today's standards, but they were having fun. And they had what was called jack-o'-lanterns on the porch of the houses. These were just pumpkins, but the name stuck in my head, jack-o'-lanterns. And they stuck a candle inside these pumpkins. Now, jack-o'-lantern, I think, that might be an American sort of thing, but because in the UK, in England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, pumpkins aren't really that popular, I'll be honest with you. In America, because I've spent some time in the States, pumpkin pie, pumpkin spice latte, it is transferring over here now to the UK. But certainly, that's only a very, very recent thing. Anyway, back to this news report in the early 70s. Must have been early 70s, must have been 73, 74, 75. I was very young. And I remember all these kids running around and thinking, wow, looks like so much fun. The reason it caught my eye is Hammer horror films. Now, I know my mum and dad probably shouldn't have let me watch them. But on BBC Two on a Saturday night, I think it was, they used to do a horror movie season. Nothing like today's horror. Very, very mild. As well as the Hammer horrors. They showed the original Dracula, the original Frankenstein, the original Wolfman, even Abbott and Costello Meet the Wolfman, things like that. And I was always fascinated with horror. For my, I want to say 7th or 8th birthday, my mum and dad got me this fantastic encyclopedia of horror. It was just the most amazing book I read to cover. So many times. It was a big hardback book. It must have cost me dad a fortune. So how lucky was I? And this ignited an interest in horror. So coming forward to today and the trick-or-treating, where does it come from? Does it come from America, as people keep telling me, and it's cheap commercialism? Well, I think the answer is no. I think the answer might lie in 16th century Britain. Because I remember reading a long time ago that particularly the Scottish and the Irish kids around about Halloween time used to do something called guising. Now, if my facts aren't exactly right, please correct me in the comments below. This is just my recollection of it. They used to knock on doors around about Halloween. Maybe dressed as a ghost, maybe dressed as a skeleton. I honestly don't know. And they used to recite a poem or sing a song. And in return for that little show they put on for the house owner, they used to get a treat. Now, it wasn't a family-sized bag of Haribo back in the 16th century. But it could have been a cake. It could have been a piece of fruit. I honestly don't know. But if you look at history, I think that's where trick-or-treating starts. 16th century England. Could it be? It doesn't have its roots in America anyway. Could it be that it actually started in England? Well, let's take a look at that. Okay, just correct myself on something I said there. Let's forget about the England bit. Sorry, Scotland. Sorry, Ireland. This is all your fault. So yeah, 16th century Scotland, 16th century Ireland, guising. There is records of guising happening in North America, but it didn't start until, I want to say, the late 1800s, early 1900s. So very much later in North America, very, very much later. Again, even up until quite recently in Scotland and Ireland, maybe up until the late 90s, it wasn't unusual for kids to knock on doors. 1990s, I mean by that, not 1890s. It wasn't unusual for kids to knock on doors and then to come round and say to the homeowner when he answered the door or she answered the door, help the Halloween party. It wasn't trick or treat. It was help the Halloween party. I did spend some time in Ireland a number of years ago, so I remember speaking to some locals about this. And this was their recollection of it. Listen, this isn't black and white history. I can't give you dates. I can't give you times. I can't quote people. This is just my recollection of their recollection. So if you want Chinese whispers, are you allowed to say that anymore? Not too sure. But anyway, cracking on. It's mainly trick-or-treating in English-speaking countries. I know South America do it as well now. They call it skull, I think, or something similar to that, skull. We've all seen the Day of the Dead celebrations they have in Mexico. Can't remember that Disney film a year or two ago. Had a great theme of the Day of the Dead. So where did trick-or-treat come from? Well, in the UK, the first time I remember seeing trick-or-treating outside that news report was in a movie in 1982. So I was 13, 14 years old, and a very small film you might have seen called E.T. Now, there was a scene in that film, quite a big scene, based around trick-or-treating. In fact, E.T. he had the sheet over him, didn't he? Pretending to be a ghost. But all the kids were on the bikes and they were going around trick-or-treating, asking for treats, and the pumpkins were there, the jack-o'-lanterns as the Americans call them, with the candles in. And it reminded me, because I hadn't thought about it from being a small child, it reminded me of that news report that I'd seen many, many years ago on English TV, British TV. So that was the first time I remember in mainstream culture in the UK. Now, don't forget I'm focused on the UK because that's where we are, that's where I live. In the States, trick-or-treating had been a thing for many, many years. There was a lot of TV shows I remember in the 40s and 50s. Not that I remember that, but that I remember reading about. They had Halloween specials. Even Disney did a little cartoon back in the 40s and 50s called Trick or Treat. So in North America, it was very much established as a custom. But in the UK, it wasn't. So 1982, E.T. Very popular film. Kind of got ingrained into the British consciousness. And I remember 1985 or 1986, and again, my years could be off here. I remember watching a horror film called Trick or Treat. Not to be confused with Trick or Treat, which didn't come out until much, much later. But Trick or Treat, the reason I ended up watching this horror film, probably on some dodgy bootleg VHS, because it wasn't as easy to watch films in them days as it is now. You know, now all these days we press a button and we've got access to pretty much any film ever made, no matter how obscure. But back then, if you wanted to watch an obscure, by obscure I mean one that wasn't mainstream, that wasn't your E.T. or your Raiders of the Lost Arks or your Star Wars or anything like that, it was hard to get hold of. Anyway, back to the film Trick or Treat. Now, the reason I remember this film is I had long hair at the time, I know. What a change. This is what time does to you kids. Anyway, embrace it. So I had long hair at the time. I was heavily into my rock music. And this Trick or Treat film featured quite a lot of the rock stars at the time. I can't really remember the story, to be fair. It was something about a rock guitarist, I think, who passed away, who came back on Halloween. It's a very, very distant memory. I'm going to need to dig this out now and watch it again, because even just doing this video is evoking memories. What I do remember is Ozzy Osbourne was in it at a time when Ozzy Osbourne wasn't in your mainstream culture like he is now. God rest his soul. What an impression that man left on us. Anyway, Ozzy Osbourne in the film Trick or Treat, and he prayed, because he played the part of a preacher in the film. Not exactly typecasting, is it, for Ozzy Osbourne? I think Gene Simmons was in it out of Kiss as well, and a number of other American rock stars. And I just thought this film was the bee's knees. I thought it was fantastic. So from E.T. in the early 80s, Trick or Treat in the mid-80s, but again in the UK, it was thought of more of as an American phenomenon. It wasn't really in the UK, England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales consciousness to participate in as an event every year. But in the 2000s, something changed. I'm not too sure what changed. I'll be honest with you, I don't know. But more and more kids started embracing the American tradition of trick-or-treating and dressing up and going knocking on doors. Now, the trick part, I know people go, oh, I remember the BBC actually in early 2000 maybe. Again, another news report, the BBC, who'd have thought it, being sensational. They called it something like demanding goods with menaces, and they completely missed the point, even to my young mind at the time. And they were just taking all the fun out of it and said it was horrible, and people were getting the windows egged if they didn't give them sweets or cash or whatever. You know, times have changed. It was never about that. They just wanted to make a news story, and it's still not about that. The trick part of it is pretty much benign. It's an idle threat. It's not even a threat. Threat's the wrong word. It's just something they say as part of the custom. Listen, I don't know one person in real life. I'm sure you do. If you do, leave it in the comments below. But I don't know one person in real life in the UK who's been presented with trick or treat and they've said, I'm sorry I don't do Halloween, and closed the door and didn't give them anything, and anything bad's happened to them. I'm sure it has happened. Listen, there's strange folk out there, but in the general consciousness of people, that isn't going to happen. So trick-or-treating, yes, it was made popular in America, but the history of it probably got its history in Scotland and Ireland back to the 16th century in that form of guising. So it's not an American thing. Or is it? I don't know. I've not made this up. This is all from my recollection of things. But I thought it was an interesting history of where I believe trick-or-treating comes from and how it's affected us here in the UK. If you're doing Halloween, if you're going out trick-or-treating, parents, please go with your kids. Stay in the background, keep them safe, stay out of sight, let them have fun. Adults, if you don't want to have trick-or-treaters at your house, it's fine, you know, nothing's going to happen to your house. I can't promise you that, but maybe a little sign on the window, maybe leave your house in darkness, maybe close your curtains, Just be polite, saying we don't do trick-or-treating. And you can actually get posters now. You can make one. I'm sure that one of your neighbours will make you a poster, or one of your family members. Because if you don't want to do the whole trick-or-treat thing, I do get it. And you don't want to be annoyed every 5 minutes with the doorbell going or the knocker going, whether you're going to answer the door or not. It's just annoying. So a polite sign on the front door would just keep people at bay. Now, doing this video, because I'm going to draw it to an end now. Listen, if you've liked this content, hit like, hit subscribe, hit share, hit the notification button. It's a brand new channel. It's been up a few days. I need to grow it. I'm just going to finish off by saying this. If you've watched one or two of the other videos about the house decorations and the Halloweens and etc, 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 you will know that very recently I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. So these videos for me are not necessarily the easiest thing to do. Now, I don't know anything about editing, don't know anything about lighting. I haven't got a Scoobies, I haven't got a clue. So I'm pretty much doing this by the seat of my pants, so I'm going to make mistakes. It's going to be fun, I hope. I have said in the other videos, listen, I need to keep myself mentally and physically in as best shape as I can, especially due to the Parkinson's. So I'm hoping that this YouTube journey, that we can take together. Let's do it, let's make the mistakes together. Listen, if I fall flat on my face, it won't be the first time, trust me. But just to wrap this up, this has been a really interesting video for me. Just talking to the camera, nothing about the house, nothing about driving around, just me and you. It's also got me thinking, I'll do another one on bonfire night and Guy Fawkes night and a little history of that, because I know a lot of you in the UK know, maybe some of you out there around the rest of the world don't know what happens with bonfire night and Guy Fawkes night and fireworks and what the tradition is. So look for another upload very, very soon regarding bonfire night. Listen guys, thanks very much. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving me some of your day. I hope to see you very, very soon on the next one. Take good care.